7 o'clock on Wednesday, April 16th. We are meeting this evening for the public hearing for the spring 25 town meeting, the warrant review by the Finance Committee. So welcome everyone in the audience that is going to give us an overview of their particular warrant articles. Appreciate you all being here. For the Finance Committee this evening, we have a quorum, small or exact, as it may be at the moment. So let's do a quick roll call for those of us present. So start with Greg.
Greg Marr.
Victoria Duckworth is here.
Kyle Quirk.
Nick Ria.
Roger Courier.
I like that. I like everybody saying their own names. Don't usually do that. And I believe Dan Kusher might be online later, FYI. So we'll note when he arrives. Okay. So I think the very first thing to do here is to open the public hearing. Do I have a motion to do so?
So moved.
Second.
All right, great. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any nays? The ayes have it. Great. The public hearing is open. Phenomenal. So we will follow the agenda as Amber so kindly read it out for us. So that starts us with reviewing the warrant articles. A would be the Board of Sewer Commissioners. That is reviewing Article 17, 22, and 23. So Paul, if you'd like to come forward.
Just love to.
I know. It's probably the favorite part of your day so far.
Not even close.
Oh, come on. Humor us. How are you this evening?
I'm well. How are you?
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so if we're gonna start off with Article 17, we'll move through our beefy packet.
Go to Article 17. So Article 17 is the O&M budget that we went over.
Yep.
Whenever that was. The finance people in the community changed it to its own article several years ago. And since Mary's not here to throw anything at me, so yeah, so that's
Says 2024 in
It
the
does.
article.
It does say 2024?
Yes.
Well, we're starting off strong then. Well, I was looking for a pen. We're on what,
17.
you need it.
No, I got this one. Thank you though.
That's why I'm here.
Always helpful.
I do my dangest.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's the sewer operating budget for the next fiscal year.
Beautiful, and we've reviewed that at great length already.
Yep.
So Article 22.
Article 22. So there's a sewer pump station at Bethley Drive that was installed 35 years ago with the intention of it not being there very long. Part of the easements were taken back in 1990 to actually run a gravity sewer line from that location to Elliott Trail and tie into the sewer system on Elliott Trail. Somewhere along the line, there was a dispute with the community and the developer of the Elliott Trail Hassan-Messett neighborhood, so that never happened. So it was built not to the standard even of that day. It was built to be a temporary fix that we've managed to band-aid together and keep operating for 35 years. And it needs to be replaced now. There's replacement parts are no longer available. The pumps aren't correct for, in 1990 there wasn't flushable wipes. So there's constant issues with them because they're not designed for the materials that people put down there towards there. So our goal is to fund this with an article that's a fund account that we have from, which is really interest off of the betterments, and I wish Mary was here to explain that better. But it's a use of that available funds that we would transfer from that betterment account to a minor sewer extension account that we already have set up to hopefully get this done, this calendar year.
Makes sense to me. Any questions?
We do have Mary here now if there was a better explanation needed for any of that.
Well, I understood it perfectly.
Okay.
No, Mary wasn't here 35 years ago to see the blunder that we committed at that time. So
No, it's it's one of the reserve accounts that are there and on the books, and there's funds in it.
Essentially interest over those.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. How much is, I guess maybe I do have a question for Mary. I changed my mind. How much is in that account in total?
4 million, something like that. It's not, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so it's,
Yeah, we can give you the exact number if you'd like. But
Curious.
it's roughly $1.4 million.
okay. Okie dokie. All good, 23?
23 is kind of a routine account for us. There's a lot of equipment in the sewer department that we have, when it breaks, we have no way of knowing it's going to break. Things are underwater in horrible locations and they eventually do fail. The biggest thing for this one, there's a disc filter that we use to remove phosphorus, and the cloth on that disc filter has a 10-year lifespan, and it's been operational since 2016. So that needs to be ordered and replaced this year, and it's between $150,000 and $200,000. The parts unfortunately come from Germany or overseas someplace, so who knows what they'll cost in the end. So that's where the majority of this funding will go.
To one filter. Okay. For sure. Okay. Seems reasonable to me.
I don't have a vote, but I find it reasonable as well.
Okay,
I think we should have a functional sewer system. Yeah.
exactly. As do I.
I love me a good phosphorus disc.
Yeah.
Always said it.
Can't beat it.
Fantastic. Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much, Paul.
Alrighty.
That brings us right to item B during the public hearing. That's Fire Department, Article 24. Chief Matthew, come on down.
I gotta stay to make sure you don't say anything.
So I'll say something. Yeah. You might have to bail me out.
Good
How are
evening.
you?
Excellent. How are you?
Good. I'm a little more excited to be here than he was.
Extra points for you. This is
That's
there's
setting the bar pretty low.
there's a points-based system here. You're winning.
All right.
Congratulations. Please take it away.
Sure. So the first article, Article 24, is a request to have our call firefighter time count towards people's retirement if they move on to full-time departments. It's an incentive for people that are currently on the department to seek further training and to get that level. And we've had a few people over the years that have put in considerable amount of time here and then moved on to other places. So it also help them in their retirement future. So
Would this be retroactively, so we'll count people's time prior, or is it moving forward?
prior to, it would account for their prior time served.
Great.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was gonna ask. Thank you.
I did just want to specify, we did talk to PRAC, and there is no cost to the town for doing this. This is all
Even
on the
better.
employee to buy in, so that we don't make up our side of it.
Right. It's if they move to another department that has.
Yeah.
I think that's a phenomenal incentive to join in and better themselves.
It'll help a little bit, I'm sure.
Yeah. No, it's a great initiative, and I think it's part of your overall strategy, right, of continuing to improve initiatives that bring in call firefighters. It's awesome.
Move right on. Have that.
This is delayed by like 6 seconds, so I already clicked.
Oh, okay. Yeah. See, I would have clicked like 10 more times just waiting.
Yeah.
Article 25 is a request to borrow to appropriate $1.4 million to replace our engine 2, which is a 2012 Pierce pumper. Basically, over the years, it was purchased to replace a truck that went out of service because of pump issues. Almost an emergency type basis. We had to buy a spare truck in order to get us through while this one was built, and funding was tight at the time, so it has come to its unfortunate useful life. They found out since this product was built that they've become a 10-year truck is what the industry is saying. We're on year 12, and the pictures that are up on the board are some of the rot that we found while we were trying to kind of update the truck to make it more user friendly. And we found this stuff, and one of the things that we found also was the fuel tank was rotted, which cost us about $18,000 to replace. The truck has been out of service on and off over the last couple of years with different pump issues. One of the pictures is the main gauges for the pump, where the operator uses to, make sure the right pressures are going in the lines, and all that were stuck in higher numbers than they should have been. So, and they're as good at math as I am, so we want it to be right at starting at 0. So yeah, this is the hope that we can get this process going, because like the other trucks that we've dealt with in the past, we're up to approximately a 4-year build time from the time of order. And we're at the point now where if we can, we'll give this a little TLC as we go along, but it's not worth us rehabbing or anything like that, just based on what's already going on with it. So that's what I got. So
Sweet. No, I think the town will be very supportive of ensuring that you've got the equipment that you need.
So we're looking at like FY 29 or FY 30 before this hits taxpayers, right?
yep.
That is an excellent point. Okay, any questions for the chief? None for me either.
All right. Thank you very
You're
much.
free to go. Thank you.
Dodged a bullet on that.
Paul thinks we're so mean. Okay, moving right along to item C. It looks like we have 6 articles to discuss with the planning board. I see Fiona online. And I'll also note that Dan Kusher is online as well. Welcome, Dan.
Hi, Fiona.
Hello. Hi, Madam Chair. Hi, members of the committee. I'm happy to kind of run through these and explain, and then we can go over any questions you may have.
Sounds perfect.
Okay, so a lot of the articles that are being proposed for this Springtown meeting are housekeeping items more than anything. Some of them are kind of self-explanatory, but I'll just run through them. So the first article is basically to just align our site plan review section of our bylaw 1.3.3 to correctly list all of the components of the site plan. In one of the bullet points, it says that there's only a certain number of requirements, D through F, but actually it's D through H. So we've just struck that and replaced it with D through H. And also this will align with our waiver requests. Applicants who come before the planning board can waive applying for certain components of site plan review. And I think that, and this is just making sure that we're correctly outlining all of the different sections and kind of codifying that accordingly. So it's just 2 sections of the bylaw there, just making sure that the list is complete and accurate. So that is the first article. The second is we are aligning our requirements for the period of validity for site plan review and special permits. So any special permit application for the town of Grafton requires a site plan review as well. And we had noticed, in one section, it's saying that a site plan is valid for a period of 2 years, and substantial use or construction proposed or required by the site plan must be completed within 2 years, whereas a special permit was the validity of a special permit was 1 year, and it was not it was required to be commenced. So we're just trying to make sure that the site plan requirements and the special permit requirements are talking to each other. So they both have a period of validity now of 1 year. And the applicant is required to commence construction within 1 year before having to come back before the planning board and renew. So then the third, so this modifications to the village a neighborhood mixed use district in section 12 is basically, so this was kind of an interesting issue that myself and the building inspector ran into. And it really, we kind of decided with the support of the planning board to put this forward because there was some confusion about what is an attached single family dwelling and the intention of that type of use in this zoning. Some folks were kind of interpreting it as, duplexes are two families, but the actual definition is a small footprint attached single family residential building with at least 3 dwelling units in a horizontal layout. So row houses and townhouses are in a horizontal layout, condos are in a vertical layout. So we just wanted to make that specification because we've had some inquiries in some of the VMU districts about, I can build a 2-family as a townhouse, and that's really not the intention of this zoning and that use category. And also we noticed that there was some conflicts between one section of the definitions for an attached single family dwelling and the actual category table / diagram. So we're just creating a cohesive one single clear definition for that type of use. And we're changing single family attached to attached single family dwelling because it just kind of makes more sense.
So is this is all clarification? This shouldn't have any changes to what's allowed or anything? Is that accurate?
Yeah, this is clarification. It will slightly change because we are going to be requiring that there's at least 3 dwelling units, which wasn't very clear in the table in the zoning bylaw. It does say there's a maximum of 8 units can be attached by a common wall. Blah 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 goes on to kind of specify that which I think we want to just make it clear, this is not 2-family duplex style. This is 3 units plus 3 plus. So that's when people do come before the planning board for I think this is site plan approval only in most VMU districts. They will have to have they will have to have at least 3 dwelling units in the proposal.
And how often have you been approached for 2-family dwelling, 2 units?
There's been a few times. We actually had a fairly recent incident which kind of prompted this request to change in South Grafton. So it was a parcel of land and they wanted to build they can build currently under the bylaw, but what they are they want to do several 2-family detached structures in a horizontal, layout, but they really need to be kind of connected dwelling units separated by a common wall and have at least 3, because that really was the intention at the time when the zoning was created. And that is the kind of style and aesthetic that we are trying to kind of cultivate in these areas. So it hasn't been a lot of instances, but there was one fairly recently, and there's just been kind of some general confusion about, townhouse versus condo versus, in this specific district. So we just wanted to make it clearer.
Okay, thank you.
And are condos not allowed in this district, or is there just different bylaws that govern the condos in this district?
They are, but when applying specifically to the townhouse style. We just want to, the townhouses have slightly different, slightly different requirements. They have to be, separated horizontally by a common wall. And, if you are doing groups of, townhouses / row houses, the buildings have to be separated by a common drive, open space, or some type of community space, whereas the condos don't have that level of specificity.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay, so that's that one. And then the next article that we're proposing is just, it's a housekeeping item, under chapter 40R, decisions by the permitting authority, which is the planning board in this instance, is it's a simple majority, or also known as a majority vote, and not a super majority. So we're just bringing that into compliance with the state law.
Great.
Alrighty, then we have a definition for tool shed. So this was kind of something else that myself and the building inspector had been experiencing some issues with folks of what constitutes a tool shed. If you can believe it or not, it can be. I think folks were trying to store their cars and wanted, the building code has specific requirements for the definition of a tool shed. So this accomplishes two things. One, aligning with the building code, and two, clarifying that tool sheds are not for vehicles.
This reminds me of the tractor trailer definition.
Yeah.
So I do
Good
have
memory.
a 2 cents worth of advice for you. Is vehicles defined anywhere?
Yeah.
Oh, top of mind. I don't
Okay.
know. I can find out
Because
in a minute.
a vehicle is fairly broadly described if you look at Black's Law Dictionary, and you might have a problem with what your intent here is to say motorized vehicles or vehicles that might be subject to motor vehicle registration or something like that, because you could have carriages, wagons, or bicycles are defined as vehicles. And you could have somebody raising a stink saying, they're putting bicycles in the shed, and that's not permitted.
Yeah, I see your point there. We don't define, from what I can see, from my quick
Yeah, if
look, vehicles specifically.
yeah,
There's
if you
sections-
mean to say motor vehicles or something like that, that
yeah.
you'd be happy with.
I had a similar thought with like ATVs or riding lawnmowers.
I was thinking writing long.
Yeah,
No, that is a good point. Okay.
yeah,
Golf cart.
Fiona's very anti-lawnmower,
Clearly.
yeah.
so
she,
that's right.
she hates a mowed lawn.
Yeah, she does.
Pollinator
I've
got
been
it.
spreading rumors about me now.
Snowball May is coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let me talk to I will talk to the building inspector, run that by her, and then we'll go from there. But that is a good point, because vehicles can be quite broadly defined. So yeah, the intent was motor vehicles, in cars. So yeah. Okay. Okay, and I think is it
34, I believe, is your last.
Yes, 34 is the last one. So this one is a little bit more lengthy, but I'll try and keep it brief. So basically we are modifying the wireless bylaw in our zoning bylaw to align better with federal requirements, technological updates in this field, and kind of what the planning board has been seeing in terms of applications. You're kind of just trying to streamline this because there is a lot of instances where people are kind of coming before the board and because of the changes at the federal level, they're not always there's just a little bit of confusion there. So our goal really with this is to add more current definitions, including a definition for co-locating wireless facilities, and also memorializing in the definitions what an eligible facilities request is. And this is really kind of the core piece. So eligible facilities request, without getting too into it, is just it's not it's an application to modify a existing wireless communications facility, but it doesn't substantially change the actual facility itself. So it's kind of considered more what we call, what the planning board typically would refer to as like a minor modification, really. So we're kind of outlining, trying to clarify that, because most of the time we're seeing people coming before us who are just updating equipment, not making any major changes to wireless towers or existing facilities that are on steeples or on buildings or what have you. It's just they're just swapping out antennas or ground equipment or things like that. So a lot of this is kind of just like clarifying language in regards to that. We did have and what I'll add is we did have a wireless consultant, Isotrope, who had been peer reviewing all of our wireless communication facility applications, but with the planning board. They did a review of this and provided feedback on some of the more technical language. So that was, and it was vetted a few times, and it had come before the board in a series of meetings last year and into early this year. So the kind of main change here is the addition of a new section, which is at section 5.8.10 modifications. So again, outlining specifications around submitting an eligible facilities request application, what powers the planning board has versus how it falls under. So sometimes it's a straight EFR, sometimes it's a little bit more complicated and requires a full special permit. So we just want to make it very clear when that applies, so folks who are trying to come before the board understand very clearly from the jump, we're not meeting the definition of an EFR. We're going beyond that. We need to apply for a full special permit. And also, we want to clarify that co-locating new carriers on an existing tower would be a special permit. It would continue to be a special permit with the board. And then lastly, one other kind of specification that I'll provide is we tried to, some of the requirements in terms of landscaping and things of that nature were very complicated and a little bit kind of overly descriptive. So we tried to kind of streamline some of that, and also in general kind of clarify submission requirements in general as well. So sorry, kind of hopping around all over the place, but yeah, so it's really tech updates, outlining the permitting process, defining what an EFR is, adding the new modification section to further specify the permitting path, and kind of streamlining submission requirements and how the board will evaluate visual impact and yeah, pretty much. So happy to answer any questions. I know that was a lot, so.
Any questions?
No questions on that one. Okay.
No.
Yeah, some of the more very, very tech detailed additions might be a bit over my head. So so I think that is the last ones.
That is the last one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thanks, Fiona.
Sure.
Appreciate your time this evening.
No problem at all. Thank you all very much.
Always your great explanations. Okay, our next topic, D, is to discuss the several articles for the CPC. Hello, gentlemen.
Good evening.
How are you this evening?
Good, how are you?
Good. Good to see you. Okay, so it looks like we're starting with Article 12. Please take it away.
Let me do 12. Go ahead, yep. Well,
This is the time of the year when the CPC does what's put together what's known as the CPC budget. And it's developed by estimating the revenue that's going to come in from the surcharge and the state and interest based on essentially a formula that the DOR recommends. And we do that every year. And so the results of that is that we come up with a revenue and, a total revenue expectation. And then we take 10% reserves out of that for the three purposes. And we take out an amount for administration use. $24,000 is what we pretty much always do. It's well under what is allowed, but it's also well over what the committee actually spends. So at the end of the year, the unspent amount rolls back in. So
that rolls back to the general fund?
It rolls back
To
into
the CPC fund,
into the what we call the undesignated fund, the unencumbered funds.
Okay.
So it can be for any purpose.
Right. So the revenue turned out to be $842,200, and so you see the three 10% reserves. So subtracting those reserves and the $24,000 from that estimated amount leaves $565,544, and that goes into an account called the fiscal year budgeted reserve, and allows it to be granted throughout the year. And so that is Article 12.
Beautiful.
Questions?
But one thing of note is that the Department of Revenue's estimate for the state match is as low as it's ever been at 15.9% of last year's revenue. So it is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah. Okay.
Article 13
Please.
is for the 17th of 20 payments for the Pell Farm. So we're almost finished paying for that, and that includes interest and principal for that. Article 14 is for we have two bonded projects, Pell Farm and then the townhouse, and this is 73,000 for the 11th out of 20. So we're halfway, a little more than halfway through paying for that, and that was 1.1 million. The Pell Farm was a little bit more; it was 1.2 million. And these are annual.
Yep.
So is there a much better interest rate on the Pell Farm? That's why the one with the lower bond is more expensive?
Not exactly. The interest rates on both of them are very attractive, although I couldn't tell you what they are off the top of my head. But it's probably the treasurer that negotiates these bonds, and it turns out that they're not level bonds, level payment bonds like we're most familiar with.
Level principal.
Right, level principal, but the interest is all over the map. The interest payment rate is all over the map, and with this one, at the end, it got fairly low.
Okay.
And that's why you see that it's small. But typically, the amount we pay each year goes down each year.
Okay.
Okay. Same as last year. So Article 35, I believe, is your next article.
That's for
My
Ferry
agenda.
Street. That's pretty much a complete reconstruction and handicap accessibility for that project. And we're paying about 300,000. I believe the town is about 100,000. So there are two sources of funding, and then they're going to use a lot of, I think, town employee work to help keep the costs down on that project.
Okay.
Any questions?
I got a quick question. Thinking way ahead, that I'll volunteer to write the blurbs for these. the stuff is on there on the website to kind of just peruse a little bit. Say like the total cost is going to be this and this is this and this, like I kind of did with the project up at the Indian Place.
I missed the first part.
The answer is yes.
Yeah,
It's,
That's
Skip's asking if the material for this project's online. And,
Right, all
and
the,
it-
Yeah,
and
all the
it-
projects are under a tab somewhere on.
yeah, okay, all right,
Yeah.
yeah.
they are.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Ask, that's,
the
this lady right here can
I'll
answer.
send it to you tonight.
She knows all about
No,
that.
that's fine. I done it last time for that. I'm just figuring, okay, if I do this, I'll just take and change the numbers.
You know, the people who are doing the project should be present
I
to
was
answer
also,
questions.
that was my moment of quiet, was
Present
also
to town
about
meeting,
the-
right?
Yes,
the-
yes.
The blurbs.
the blurbs and how specific and prescriptive we want to be about, you know, where and when the money that the CPC has in its, you know, budget reserves can be spent and why it's being spent on this particular project, right? There are a lot of questions about, well, why are we building a playground versus doing X, Y, and Z, right? Well, that's because legally that's where these funds can go, and that's the next project up. So we should just be thoughtful about how we want to be very descriptive to the town and the blurbs about that. Maybe. I don't know. We can argue about that. Great, but I have no questions specifically about this particular guy. If you don't, team. So on to 36.
It's $70,000, which is an additional grant to the Congregational Church. The original grant was approved at town meeting last May, and the bid that they received did not include work on the steeple, and it turns out there are a lot of issues in the steeple, and that's what this additional funding is for.
Okay. Fair. If town approved the first piece, the second piece seems pretty natural.
And they've held up moving forward, even though they have contracts and have worked with the contractors, because they don't want to get into it and then have to stop short.
Sure.
So they want to make sure that this is a fully funded project before they start spending money.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay.
Have they done like additional site research, or have they brought additional people in to make sure
I think
there's nothing else that needs to be?
They got a lift, and I guess that was quite expensive to do this additional survey work to make sure that the work was needed and to get up there where they aren't, because you can't really do scaffolding to do the estimate, but they feel confident that this is a good number.
Okay.
For the additional work that they need to do.
And I guess my point was more so about there's nothing else that needs to be done in addition to this
Well,
that they.
This
know of.
also includes, there was the granite in the front that has started to shift, but that's part of the original project.
Okay. Okay.
But it's the same, it's, nothing has changed about the project, it's just, this is one piece that was not included in the original bid.
Okay.
Great. And Article 37?
And that is, an annual, transfer. We transfer the money rather than holding it in our account, so that the money is available to the Affordable Housing Trust immediately, so that if they have a project or something that needs the funding, it's available to them whenever the bill comes due, rather than having a special town meeting or waiting 6 months for another town meeting to approve the funding. And we've done this for almost a lifetime at CPC, that we realized that it was
Certainly the lifetime of the trust.
for the trust to give them access to the funds, because it does them no good for the funds to be in our account if they're the ones that need the access to the funds.
Makes perfect sense. Okay, any additional questions? Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it as always. Okay, and next up are citizens petitions. It's Article 38 and 39, and joining us is Ms. Colleen Roy, hello, how are you this evening?
Lovely. I'm Article 39. I have no idea what Article 38 is.
Wow.
I'm gonna speak to 38, so don't you.
Well, would you kindly move over to that chair? So we can take you in numerical order.
I can if I can leave when I'm done.
Yeah, like everybody else.
Yeah, just gonna get walk.
Take your little placard and leave.
Just leave. All right, let me get this set up for Colleen here.
All right. So this citizens petition is going to bring a property tax exemption for seniors who qualify. And when I was on the board the select board previously, that was one of the things I heard the most from seniors is how can they get property tax relief? And that's really stuck with me. And this past fall, I attended a town meeting in Hopkinton, and they offer this exemption. They've been offering it for a number of years now. And the way it's written is that each year the select board will select the rate of the exemption. And then every 3 years it comes back to town meeting. So that's what Hopkinton was doing, it was reauthorizing it after providing it for the last 3 years. Which I really like that feature, honestly, that there's a lot of nuance to it, that if there's years that we know that there aren't that many people, we can maybe offer a higher amount or, however we choose to do it. And then every 3 years, town meeting can weigh in and say, oh, I've seen the data now, I know I definitely want to keep supporting this, or however they feel. This is something that the state has tried to bring forward as well. They haven't quite successfully been able to do that. So this guarantees that Grafton residents will start seeing the benefits sooner if we can pass it at town meeting. It then has to get approved at the state level, so it won't be immediately available, but it'll put us on the track to making it available. Things to highlight about the petition, I already covered, the select board sets the rate annually. Town meeting will weigh in every 3 years. It's based off a criteria that's currently set by the senior circuit breaker income tax credit. So basically, if you qualify for that, you're going to qualify for this. So in Grafton, 348 individuals qualified for the senior circuit breaker in 2022. That's the most recent data from the DOR. And it averaged about $1,000 credit for the individuals who qualified. So if you kind of spread that out over the percentages that the select board might be able to apply annually, those are the credits that some of the seniors that qualify could be looking at receiving. Based off the current abatements that are being utilized within Grafton, it's reasonable to assume that there's about 125 households that could probably qualify for this in Grafton. If all 125 households qualified, applied, and it went into full utilization the first year, those are the dollar amounts we'd be looking at offsetting in the tax levy. And what would that mean for each individual? For the average homeowner, which is about $625,000 in Grafton, based off the exemptions, the rate change would be between 1 and 6 cents. So the dollar amount would be anywhere between, $6 and $37, depending on the percentage that the select board set. So if let's just say 100%, it'd be about $18 a year. The rest of us would have to pay so that 125 senior households receive an exemption. So that's pretty incredible to think about it that way. It's more likely than not, it'll be a far lower number. I don't really foresee, no, it's okay. I really don't foresee 125 households applying in the first year and receiving the credit, but it's good to know that number anyway. For example, in Hopkinton, the first year they did it, it was 19 households. The second year was 16 households, and the most recent year was 24 households. Just to put it in perspective, we're talking about 125 households when we're looking at these numbers. And that's all I have.
Any idea how many households Hopkinton has that might have been eligible?
I do not know that number, no.
And what's the credit that they could get? Their full
So
real estate tax?
if we
or-
go back a couple slides.
Yeah, I was looking at this one.
Right, so
Didn't
the
realize it was-
potential exemption, and these are based off the 2022 DOR numbers, this has the ability to change, okay? But based off the 2022 numbers, that was the exemption that they would have received had we been doing this.
So is it the same for everybody, or is that like an average circuit breaker?
The $1,000 is an average of the circuit breaker people received in 2022, and then we use that number to build these numbers out to give people a sense, right, of what we're looking at here.
Are you planning on presenting this at town meeting as part of? Okay.
Absolutely, yep.
How does this dovetail with the kind of work off your Tex?
Yeah, so I did have a conversation with the assessor based on that. You would still be able to get those other exemptions. It wouldn't disqualify you. This is really just based on your eligibility for the senior circuit breaker tax credit. So, yeah, I mean,
Just want to
Yeah.
make sure somebody doesn't kind of shoot themselves in the foot
nope,
Yep.
this won't,
going for one and losing the other one.
right, this doesn't like impact your assets or your, you know, your eligibility for any of the other programs.
One question, at the end of section 3, it says the amount should be allocated proportionally within the tax levy on residential taxpayers. And the end of section 5, it's a burden shift within the residential tax levy. Does that mean it only applies to residential and not commercial?
Yes, and it's done on a form called the LA5. So when we're doing our reporting to DOR and we're setting our tax rate, you essentially take the number of exemption that would be given under this, you put it on the distribute the burden line of the LA5, and it calculates it out. So, yes, that's the answer.
Okay, so is it a requirement that it be residential, or was that a choice?
I believe it's a choice.
Okay.
And I chose to do it that way because that's exactly how Hopkinton used their language, and it passed at the state, and I wanted to make sure that it passed here in Grafton as well.
Okay.
Did they use general laws or did they put Massachusetts general laws?
This is the exact language that they
They
used.
did? Okay.
Minus, I swapped out Grafton for Hopkinton.
I don't see there being a whole lot of difference since we're 92.8 anyways, so.
Correct. Yep. The impact is not is negligible.
And it's really great when we're talking about overrides in the future. We can know that we're creating another opportunity to provide relief for some of our vulnerable seniors. So, it's a
Oh,
good thing.
does that mean we would now have a split tax rate?
No,
Okay.
no, I don't think we.
No, because
No.
it's just the same as you're working off part of it.
Well, because it gets reallocated to,
It's
so it would apply to residential and not commercial.
Commercial.
So there would be a slight,
right, but so I'm thinking about it from the way that you fill out the forms for DOR
Yeah.
for setting
Yeah.
the tax rate, and it comes after. So
okay,
everything before that impacts your split. Everything after does not.
okay.
That's
So the
how-
tax rate is the
I'm
same, but
organizing
this would be like additional stuff like the CPC goes on
right
afterwards.
Yeah, because it right and
This goes on
it's
afterwards.
it's
Okay,
those other impacts like so abatements they hit the overlay account, right, which we have to kind of juggle. This does not. This is just taking the portion of the residential burden and shifting it within that document.
Right.
Okay.
It's the same pie. The pieces are just changing.
Very, very slightly for
Eight-
all of us, but
$18.
significantly for those who are receiving it.
Who are the most impacted, potentially? I think this is a great idea.
Thank you.
Can you talk about, I guess, why 150% or 200% exemption would be necessary? Or like what that would do? I guess I get it up to 100%, but then,
of the circuit breaker amount,
Right.
Okay.
It's
not
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 your
of their tax, of their circuit breaker.
okay.
You can't legally. We could, in theory, let's say the select board said we want to do 200%. 200% of the 107 or $1,000 is $2,000.
Right.
Let's say the senior did all these other exemptions and they only owed $1,500. You can't go negative on you. We don't owe you. We don't cut you a check.
Right.
You don't owe you money.
Right.
But it's not. So it's not of your property tax bill. You could, in theory, get 100% off your property tax bill by doing a myriad of other exemptions. But given the average tax bill in Grafton's $8,700, it's unlikely that even with all of those things and 200% that you would ever get to zero.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I did run some our
Yeah.
due diligence in the background, and I do have some other documentation if anybody wants to see it, just to explain it.
I did have the same reaction looking at this slide and say the exemption being 200%. So I wonder if updating this to point out that it is explicitly of the circuit breaker, 200% of circuit breaker and not 200% of taxes.
Okay.
Make that a little bit clearer.
Yeah, that's fair.
You got it. Okay, are we good?
I think so.
All right, we'll have a lovely night. I'll
Thank
be right
you,
over
Deb.
there.
You as well. The first person who's not going to immediately leave. Thanks, Colleen. All right, so we will go back a number and look at 38. I
We're
think
gonna be passing over 38.
we are passing over 38.
Yep.
Just kidding. Did you say that? Did I not hear that?
No,
No,
I just said it right now for the first time.
Okay.
Yeah, as
I
the
believe
present-
it was
as
said
the
in the meeting
presenter of
last
the
night,
article.
not tonight.
Yeah, and I will explain that when we do the select board section.
Article 27.
27 and 28.
Excellent. So next is that's the Nelson Park and Memorial Trustees Article 5. You guys
They're
ready
not
for
coming. So, this is only putting somebody who wishes to serve as a trustee on the warrant to be elected or not elected to the position.
it must the town vote to appoint trustees?
Yes,
Yes,
this particular
Forever
one.
and always.
yes, this is
We-
an oddity, but you are elected at a town meeting.
Fascinating.
Yep.
All right. Good for Mr. Williams. All right, I have no questions.
Yeah.
How do you like that?
I believe we elected someone at this table that way last year.
Wow. Memory of a goldfish. Apologies.
Uh-oh.
No disrespect to those present. All right, moving on. G, Board of Assessors, 10 and 11.
And it looks like I will speak to the Board of Assessors.
Hey, thanks.
So these are clauses that you need to quasi, that need to be accepted every 2 years. One is a tax exemption that is for people in the Massachusetts National Guard who are reservists or serving on active duty in the United States. We've done this a number of times. And then we've got one that is geared towards certain blind persons, veterans, surviving spouses, and seniors. And this is another one that we've done every 2 years for quite a long time. I would like to point out that Mass General Law 59, Section 5, which is Article 10, was amended under the HEROES Act that was passed last year. So this will be the last time we have to reauthorize it. They got rid of the 2-year reauthorization, which is fantastic. But we do have to reauthorize it this one last time.
For Article 11, I notice it does not say effective for 2 fiscal years. Is that something that needs to be there? or-
No, it's the same language we've used for
Okay.
a decade.
I just noticed the difference
Yep.
because 10 said it and 11 didn't.
Right.
So, participation-wise, do we have any idea how much?
Yes, it's on my desk.
Okay.
It's a printed document. I did ask
Yeah.
for it.
Oh,
Not for this though, ironically. It was to try to figure out the citizens petition full amount of exemptions that we give. So I can certainly give you that information. It is low.
yeah, I
It
had
is
no
not-
idea,
it
you
is
know.
not a striking number.
I remember talking about this in the past and saying, geez, I wonder how many people actually
Yeah,
this helps, or whatever you want to call it,
yeah.
or affects, or,
Maybe when we get to finance director, if Mary speaks to that, I will run to my office and get it for you.
Crickets.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not.
Mary's already fallen asleep.
It's concerning. Okay, I think that's all for the Board of Assessors.
That is correct. No additional questions? No? Same as last year's? H, Cable Oversight Committee, that's
That's me.
Article 18. I have,
It's-
this is a lot of you.
Yes, I know, a little too much, you might say.
Oh, I would never say that.
It's actually Cable Advisory Committee that did not make it through the typo
That's right.
list this year.
That was an oversight.
It was an oversight. Well done, well done. So cable, that is just the budget that we've already presented and discussed, the $404,500.
Yep. Great.
Yep.
Why is that? Is this, maybe I'm gonna ask a dumb question. Why is that not part of a consent agenda?
Well, we're always a little touchy on funding and mechanisms. It seems like it's like CPC, we already have a bond. You can't really say no to the bond. That seems like a consent agenda.
Yeah.
And this one seems like someone might want to talk about it. I don't know. It's just kind of a transparency thing.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the first time we've gotten the two bond payments in the consent agenda,
Consent.
so they've been pretty much lower ones.
Fair enough. Okay, and then that leads us to 19 and 20, the Blackstone Valley School articles. We had Dr. Fitzpatrick join us our last meeting, and we had the opportunity to ask questions about these two then. Does anybody have any questions about the Blackstone Valley Tech articles?
Nope.
So with 20, they just want to create a stabilization account for us to contribute to on an annual basis?
I believe that is
Yes.
what they described.
Yes, but this is creating the stabilization account, but this is not in this warrant asking us to contribute anything. So this is like step one, open the account.
Yeah, because we approved funding last year for a debt exclusion for the roof work, but they haven't started that yet. I believe they were saying that the money for that would go into this stabilization account. I'm not.
Right.
Sure.
No, that was the gist I got as well. Which, and I'm not advocating for it, but it does make sense. I mean, that's why we have a stabilization account.
Yeah.
Can shift money over there. It still requires a vote to pull money out of the stabilization account, so it's not like it's a
Yeah,
revolving account or anything like that.
we had talked when they came up with whatever we just finished paying the $106,000
Yep.
job for, of creating a stabilization account and putting money into it to pay for that work.
Yep.
And I think we got slapped and told we couldn't do it.
My understanding of it, and I could be off base on this, Skip. My understanding is that a bunch of other communities didn't support it. There was a
What's this?
pushback, stabilization, when they tried to do this in the past.
What? So it wasn't so much them, it was more us just to level out what we were doing, because we could have said, okay,
Right.
we're gonna do $70,000 from now until whenever, and then we would always have the money to pay whatever they assessed, and we wouldn't have this going on, which is what
Right.
kind of happened at the beginning. So it's like, it's a stabilization account, kind of like for the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, there's BVT has no, I'm not gonna say it that way. There are towns that are very tough for BVT to operate in and get things through boards that I've noticed. I'm part of a TA group that deals with, and some towns are very anti-BVT. We don't really have that here, not to the degree that some of these other towns have. But so I don't even know if that's going to pass through all the towns that it's going to need to
Have it
make
to be.
Were you talking about a stabilization for the operating expenses that vary
No.
from year to year?
No, it was for the debt exclusion or something that we had. It was
I thought that was that was
either 10 or
fixed
20
amount.
years ago, whenever that came up, because they had gone out and hadn't even bonded the project, and we started paying some money. It's very fine. Why don't we just take and put the money into a stabilization account and pay them yearly, so that we know what it's going to be now. We could have it until they finish their work. And for some reason, this was from a long time ago, they said, no, you can't have a stabilization account for Blackstone Valley. So we didn't do it.
I think what Skip was saying about the varying amounts is that as a bond rolls off, then you get another bond. And
It-
whereas if we were in a down year and you said we were paying 70 grand a year, you could still put 70 in there, and then that would help even out the rest.
Yeah,
of it.
I was just thinking. I thought the debt exclusion assessment was fairly constant year to year.
Yeah.
But
And it also depends on what bond they wind up going with, whether they go for level principal or level
Okay,
debt
like,
service.
like
So-
the CPC
Yeah,
one.
so
Okay.
there's a scenario where it's not.
Okay.
But,
Yeah, and that's what happened at the beginning of that. It was kind of unfavorable to us and kind of up in the air. We kind of wanted to do that, but didn't.
Okay. If we think of any additional questions, I'm sure Dr. Fitzpatrick would be happy to address them via email as well. So let's move on. The select board,
yes, so I'm gonna run through here.
21.
21 is where they start?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Yep.
you so much.
And then 26.
Thank you
after that.
so much again. So 21 is to set or establish a municipal solid waste enterprise fund, which we discussed at length
Yes.
at the hearing. Happy to go into more detail if anybody needs it.
This is just establishing, no funding or anything.
Correct.
Because that
Yep.
won't take effect until next year.
Correct, once
Okay.
we've worked out the nuances of the plan and all of the rest.
Okay.
Article 26 is to petition the general court to create a home rule petition to ban the use of SCARs, which are second generation anticoagulant rodenticides. So these are rodenticides, as I understand it, that are predominantly or only used by licensed pest management companies. These are not like your small bait traps that you may buy in Koopmans or whatever. So what this does is allows us to ban it for that commercial user. We have just switched to all non-SCARs for the town because we did this as a town policy first. So it didn't impact residential users. Fairly non-invasive process and only marginally more expensive. So, select board decided to support it.
My main question is why this is a petition to the general court
That
rather
was our
than just
main
a
question
bylaw
too. That was our main
amendment.
question too. Yep. So we reached out to town council, who said that it has to be done this way because the state has regulations in place, and this goes beyond where their regulation stops, essentially, and so we need to petition the court to be able to do more than the general law allows.
And so that's not something that would be covered in a attorney general review after a bylaw.
It is not.
Okay.
No, that was one of our first questions as well. Okay, Article 27. This is to accept the road, utilities, and easements as at High Point and Pepper Bush Court. So this has gone through the planning board. It's gone through the select board. They've approved it being on this. This is the replacement for Article 38. So Article 38 was written in such a way that it would be non-actionable by town meeting. And as it is a citizen's petition, we have a couple of options, but we chose to take the option where we didn't send it back to the petitioner and say you need to now go out and do this all over again, since the board was in favor of us taking it under the subdivision rules and regulation process anyways. We'll just write the warrant article as it should be and put it on there. So that's what we did.
That's very nice.
Do we know the state of those roads?
Yes, so they've all been accepted. They've been peer reviewed, accepted through the planning board process. They're up to standards. They've got the proper stormwater, so on and so forth.
Okay.
Yep, that's part of you petition the select board then sends it to the planning board reviews it, sends it back to the select board then puts it on the warrant. So, you know.
A partridge in a pear tree.
Right, yeah, not complicated at all. Article 28 is to take the open space associated with that development for the purposes of conservation. This may or may not survive town meeting. There is a structure on the property, was what I believe was a blacksmith's shop way back. It sits over a brook that is right there, and it has since collapsed into the brook. At the select board meeting where we decided to put these onto the warrant, the applicant said that they did not do it because of the conservation hurdles that they'd have to go through and the costs associated with that. I've met with conservation, and it's really just what's called an RDA process. We are working with the applicant to try to reach some kind of an agreement, either by way of funds or by way of removal of that structure. So as we get closer to town meeting, we will let you know where we stand. So we're currently working on that issue. But I would not recommend to town meeting as a town administrator to take the property with that unless we have some kind of a mechanism in place to remove it.
So the town can't say,
it-
I will accept it conditional upon this," or
Perhaps.
anything like that.
Perhaps, but it has to be a really. It would be hard to convince me to do that unless we had some kind of an escrow account
Okay.
set up in case it does not get removed. Because it seems like it's been a real long time that it hasn't been removed.
Right.
And while conservation can be a tough process, it's not like a 20-year tough process.
So what is the effect of us not accepting this grant at
Well-
this point?
No, there's a couple of theories on that. So one is that they would have to go through the work and then bring it back to town meeting. The other, and I think this is where the risk lies, is that they could just stop paying the taxes on it and not come back. We do have a few times in that, so I don't want to pretend like that's not an option. It does seem as the municipality there's very little chance that we don't have some kind of stake in this, whether they walk away from it, stop paying it. So we are trying to work out something. I think best case scenario, in my opinion, is that we get some kind of funding in escrow that we can then use and do this ourselves.
So was this grant in exchange for something else as part of the project, or are they just granting the land?
This is what the subdivisions do on a fairly regular basis, which is all the land that they can't use to put a house on, they then gift to the town as open space. Which, in some cases works out to be very nice. There is a big chunk here in the middle of the property that is open space that the residents can use, and there's some very walkable lands around the edges.
But there's also a blacksmith mill sunk into a river in the middle of it. Yeah.
Right at the entrance, actually, if you go up there from Adams to High Point, it's right on the far side there.
So the plus side, if we accept this, is we get more open space. The downside is it's off the tax rolls.
Yep, if yes. So not to be a cynic, but if you believed that a developer, and I'm not talking about this developer specifically, but a developer would be inclined to pay taxes on unusable land forever. I don't think that that's a likely scenario either. I think they'll find some way to offload that property or.
Yeah, just not pay taxes on it, and we
Right,
just
and
leave it
I do
alone
want to
and
be
never
clear,
take it.
saying nothing about this particular
Yes.
developer.
Yeah, of
I'm
course.
just saying that in towns throughout the Commonwealth that has happened.
I'm just looking. What are the benefits to us of not of accepting it? What are the
Yes.
benefits
Yep.
of accepting it, of not accepting it?
Right.
Postponing it to another town meeting.
Yep.
That kind of.
Yep. So I'm hopeful that we reach resolution before we get to this town meeting and can advise town meeting one way or the other, either to pass over it, vote no, or vote yes because we have this other deal in place.
So I imagine this is one on which we would not want to take a position at this point.
If you are correct, yes.
Okay.
Okay, and so if we have no other questions on item J, that brings us to item K for the finance director, articles 1, 2, and 3. And Mary, you are online.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
Hey, Mary.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
So good.
Sorry about the video. I can't, my computer won't let me put the video on unless I restart the whole computer. So,
No worries. We can picture your beautiful face.
oh, thank you. Okay, so this is just real quick. Article 1, that is to replenish the capital account for the fire department. This is to pay our on-call firefighters when they retire. Our balance in the account right now is 6,800. Article 2, the 300,000 will fund our new OPEB funding policy that we discussed back in early January, February. And Article 3, I'm planning on using some free cash for our snow and ice. And our current deficit is $237,500.
Will you say that number one more time, please?
237.5.
Thank you.
Yes.
And what is our free cash before we get to this point? Or estimated anyways?
Oh, I have that. Let me.
It might be in that email you sent me.
Yes, it's all in the state of the message. Yes, so free cash, it was certified at $4,965,846. We utilized 550,000 for the school roof repairs, and then we'll utilize, what I've just gone over, the snow, the OPEB, the fire capital, and then we will transfer. Oh, I forgot about the 600,000. Yeah, to plug in for the budget, and then the remainder of the capital plan is about 1.6 million. Yeah, so we're dipping into free cash this year.
So it looks like about 3 million probably.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what you'd send me? That's what's in the state of the town message, I think.
I don't know where that went. I had that. Okay, there's the packet.
It's actually the part that I have highlighted.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to make sure that all of those numbers were right. We can talk about it in the next bit.
Yeah, well, I'm also stalling because Evan's not back yet.
Well, fair. So what was the number that you said at the top of that, Mary? It was the 4,965,846?
Yes.
Okay, so that's
And we're using 22,562
180
this evening, plus we used 550,000
school.
for the school roof, so yeah. We'll be around 2 million afterwards.
Yeah.
So you said 3 was just snow and ice at this point?
Yes, I will have our annual joint meeting with Finance and Select Board to do some interfund transfers. There's a lot of capital accounts that I'm going to transfer for the school, for their PA system. We put in the capital plan some PA systems, and they realized a few of them weren't needed. So we're going to just reallocate that money. And there's a few other capital deficits that, we'll do some transfers for. And that's really all I anticipate. Maybe some other small transfers. I'm monitoring my salary accounts and expense accounts right now. So.
Okay.
Okay, really straightforward. Any other questions for Mary?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Back in the nick of time, Evan.
I know.
We didn't have to stall at all.
I was in the hallway listening. So I'm not gonna go back in there any earlier than I have to.
Everyone thinks we're so mean.
He's mumbling. He's going to need a ride home tonight.
Would you? Okay.
Please.
Let me
Please
talk to you
answer our
about some
questions.
exemptions here.
Yeah,
So
we'd love to hear the exemptions.
the 17D clause 17D of the Mass General Laws, that surviving spouses, minors or persons over 70 years of age, there's 19 of them. Total dollars 10,000. The veterans exemptions, those are veterans and surviving spouses. That's called 22C. You have one of those. 22D, surviving spouses, and 22E, veterans and surviving spouses. There's a difference between the two, and I don't know exactly what it is off the top of my head. That is 33. We also have 41C exemptions, which is just the elderly exemption that we had talked about. That's 12 persons. There's also a category, and this is the assessor's category, that is, sorry, got sidetracked. So all of your veterans exemptions, all told, is 67 of every various category that we have. We have a total abated a dollar amount in fiscal 25 of $177,904.
Does that include the 10,000 from 17D?
Yes,
Okay.
I can get you a copy.
No, I'm just thinking of this, just whatever we write in the thing to. So if it's a total and it's 67 people under the various assorted and the sundry programs.
Yeah. Yeah, so all told, if you took every exemption that we have on the books and we give, it's 138 people. Or households, excuse me. Sorry, not people, households. But not all of those exemptions are cross-compatible with the senior credit. Just to be clear, because we gave Colleen had given the 125 number before.
So 138 households for a total 177,904.
Correct.
Okay.
So that's the, under Articles 10 and 11, that's the combined total.
Yeah.
Okay.
As found on the MDM-1.
I'm hearing
No,
you
different.
volunteering for so many blurbs.
Well, no,
Thank you so much.
it's easy.
I love that.
I'm just trying to be, proactive.
No, I very much so appreciate it. Okay, so then Evan, back to you
Yeah,
for the rest of the warrant articles.
great.
Article 4.
Yeah, happy to be here. Happy to do it.
Thank you.
Yes. So to hear reports of several town officers, boards, and committees, that's a standard standing item that is on every town meeting. We have, as part of our consent agenda, to accept the Chapter 90 money. That's Article 6. You should always say yes to accepting the money. Article 7 is to sell authorize the select board to sell surplus items. Just stop me if you've got anything at any point.
That's the. We do this every year.
Yep, it's in the consent agenda. It's all pretty standard fare. Article
If we have
8,
questions, we'll just yell hold.
That's right. Article 8 is our revolving accounts that we have established. I do not believe we have any changes as far as the number of accounts that we have on that list.
There is one coming up later. There was a question whether it would make it into that article or not.
That has been removed.
Okay.
There was one for the fire department. There is a hitch in whether or not it is a fee or a reimbursement, and whether or not it's eligible. So we have Mary very astutely created a 1-year kind of workaround as we work through the rest of it.
Okay.
Or a forever workaround, I guess, if it had to be. But the idea is to recoup or charge the state for our service on the Mass Pike. So the chief, Chief Matthews, much to he should get very good credit for this, determined that there are towns in the Commonwealth that have been receiving money to respond to the Mass Pike pretty much since its inception. Grafton was not one of them.
What?
Yeah, there's
We used to get money.
we haven't gotten it for decades.
Well, I remember going out.
So I think that it changed when the Turnpike Authority ceased to exist and we went to MassDOT. I believe that's when
That sounds right.
the thing happened. So there's a whole bunch of communities along the pike that respond to the pike that were not receiving funds for that work. And so we are now going to be one of the communities that does, as is a whole bunch of communities. The chiefs all got together and determined that it was unfair, including chiefs that do receive it. We're like, you don't have this agreement?
Yeah. I think that's what happened is the word got around is, oh, we still got that money from the state.
So chief did a really good job on that.
Yeah.
And so what we were trying to do is create a revolving account where that money could go right from their response on the pike to their account that they could use to fund safety or equipment or anything else they need to do that work on the pike. Seems like a fair way to look at that. But we're having a little legal hiccup with the how to create that. So we are still gonna make sure that they're getting those funds, but we're gonna probably take another bite at the apple later.
What's the rate look like?
It's not a lot, to be honest with you. We do think we're out there, and I wish the chief was here because I can't give justice to the call volume. They're out there a lot.
Oh yeah.
And so the chief, Mary, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think the chief said that maybe on their highest volume years they might see close to $30,000.
Yeah.
Which
Yes, that's what the chief told me.
okay, which sounds like a lot of money, but if you ever go and stand on the side of the turnpike, that's not even close to enough money to get me to stand out there and try to get people to go around an accident that you're working. And the amount of, that's where our highest rate of fatals is, I believe, as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a pretty big impact. Not a pretty big, it's a big impact for the men and women that are doing that work.
100%.
So we, Mary and I, and the chief obviously would like to just see that go to them.
Sure.
You know, for whatever purpose they determine that, you know, is necessary
Yep.
for that work. Anyways,
Okay.
not to digress too far. Article 9 is our standard fare requesting funding of transportation services from WRTA. Article, I think we're over to 15 now. This is the omnibus. Nothing has changed since I was last here and we discussed. Correct, Mary? We didn't, did we, I just want to,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm sorry, what was that?
We didn't change the omnibus since I last was before FinCon.
No.
Okay. Okay, so Article 16 I'm gonna have to amend. We had a lot of confusion that cropped up in the last couple of days about the leases for the fire trucks. The documentation that I had on the original town meetings that I did when I got here stated that the last payment of the last truck we bought would be fiscal 25. After a lot of digging and a lot of review, and talking to the leasing companies, that was not correct information. So I added both of the fire truck leases that we had on the books to the warrant. And I should have only done that for engine 3 and not engine 5. So in the warrant, it shows engine 3 and engine 5. On the sheet that I've just handed out, engine 5 has been removed. That's the only difference between the two.
That's the $98,000.
Correct. Yes, sir. So yeah, that's unfortunate. There's a lot of confusion there for
Well, that's coming out of free cash.
nothing. Yep, it's just
Okay.
coming out of free cash, and that is the final year of that truck. And that is the last payment will be made on March 15th, 2026. So Any questions on that? Hate to see it. Very frustrated this morning. Okay. Moving right along here.
I think that's it.
That's it.
Okay, good.
9:30, 31.
Yep, makes sense.
I think we're good. Any additional questions from the public? No? If not, I believe we can close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, because Dan is online, we will take a roll call vote. Greg?
Aye.
Victoria says aye. Kyle?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Skip?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
And that motion carries 6-0. The public hearing has been closed. Okay, so let's go through and determine our recommendations for each of the articles.
Can we do a single vote to recommend all but that one article that we don't want to take a position on?
I hear a motion to approve all of those articles except that one that we.
Except for Article 28
Article 28.
and 38, which is being passed. I move that we vote to recommend passage of all articles except for 28 and 38 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve all articles except for Articles 28 and 38 as.
39 too, right? Because you don't take a position on citizen petitions.
We do.
We do.
Yep.
I don't.
We do.
Oh.
We recommend, we have to take a position on every article.
That's our job, to recommend to the town meeting.
I believe
That's
there was.
not my job.
I believe there was one previously where we did not take a position on and reserve the right not to take a position on.
Yeah, I believe it was a choice.
Yes, a strategic choice. We did not take a position on that position.
Any further discussion on the motion?
I do have an item of discussion that I would say that we should not be supporting Article 33 as written, which is the one with fixing the vehicle. Because
Okay.
accepting that, I would be steadfastly against that.
I would accept a friendly amendment to remove Article 33 from that motion.
So moved.
Excellent.
Second.
And seconded. All right, so the amended motion is to approve all articles as written except for Articles 28, 33, and 38.
Yep.
Any additional discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Greg?
Aye.
Victoria says aye. Kyle?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Skip?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
And that motion passes 6-0. Thank you. So,
I recommend that, Finance Committee recommend passing over Article 38.
Second.
Okay, just one question there. We aren't passing it over. Are we recommending that town meeting pass over?
Yes.
Or are we not supporting it because we think that it's going to be passed over at the town meeting?
Our recommendation is that the town pass over.
Again, I'm not on the committee, but I do believe that's consistent with what you've done in years past.
Yeah.
Okay.
okay, we have a motion to recommend
clear,
that the
I'm
town pass over Article 38. Do you hear a second?
Yeah.
Did we second that? Okay, great. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Greg?
Aye.
Victoria says aye. Kyle?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Skip?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
That motion passes 6-0. Do I hear a motion on our recommendation for Article 33? Shall we say to be? Do we need to make a motion on that one right now, or we just need Fiona to come back to us with it?
Well,
We can start with
so
a.
we could say no now, subject to changing that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And we could either do that at the preparation meeting or at the town meeting before if they finally develop their wording that seems something that we could support at the town meeting.
I just for education of the committee, I did already receive an email
Of course you did.
from Fiona regarding that. So,
What did it say?
can I change that? To which I replied, no, but I would anticipate an amendment to that.
At the town
Language
meeting.
at the town meeting,
Yeah.
So
which we could potentially provide to the committee ahead of time, what we will be amending, as I just did with that sheet there, but it won't be tonight.
Yeah, so it's just not supported as written, but we
Yeah.
expect to support this with a change about the definition of vehicles or something
Yeah.
of that nature.
could we say,
Further,
So can I make a motion, then we can decide. So I move the finance committee recommend not passing Article 33 as written and expecting a amendment to the article later, and we reserve our right to change our recommendation once that amendment has been received.
second, that's awful long.
It's awfully long. We do have discussion on the motion. Dan?
Yeah, I think we've had similar situations in the past where we anticipated a really important and substantial or substantive amendment like this. And I think what we did is we opposed passage, and then in the explanation, we just were very clear that we expected that there would be a small but important amendment, and actually explain the amendment, and that we expect that we would support it.
Just the agreement on the verbiage of the blurb.
Yeah, I think that is compatible with a recommendation like that would be compatible with the motion.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
And one other detail, I think Greg's exact words were that we recommend not passing. I think the phrasing we typically use is we oppose passing.
Yeah, we oppose passage of the
Sure.
article as written.
I would accept that amendment.
Well,
Just tiny detail.
I know
big
what he
thing.
was talking about. Oppose passage. Oppose passage of Article 38 as written.
33.
33. Article 33 as. I read up one line.
are you writing the blurb for it as we speak?
No, I'm just writing notes on the motions. The amendment, the motion is to oppose passage of Article 3 as written with the rest of them. Okay.
And so on and so forth. And that was seconded
Yep.
with the amendment. Okay, any further discussion? See none, we'll take a roll call vote. Greg?
Aye.
Victoria says aye. Kyle?
Aye.
Nick? Aye. Skip?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
All right, that motion passes 6-0. And then that leaves us
28.
that's 28, right?
I think we can just not
Yeah, just
take a position on this one at this point.
I think that's right.
Because we don't know what the status is going to be when we get there. So
What
we
was
can
the
just
issue with it again?
That's the one with the shed that's collapsed into the river.
Economic development.
We're not trying to buy an old shed.
Can't put a motor vehicle in there.
At the very least. A bicycle?
Once it's rebuilt,
Maybe.
you can't.
Yeah.
But you can still put a blacksmith shop over the river.
We could say we have chosen not to take a position on this article at this time.
Is that a motion?
I don't know if it needs to be a motion.
I think. I mean, if are we expecting to get the information we need before town meeting?
Evan is hopeful.
So I think
I
what
sure
we
am.
vote right now is we don't support the passage of this with current
Right.
information,
I think
but we
that's
expect
fair.
to receive more.
I think so too.
So that's kind of
Same
it's
thing.
like, well, we opposed passage of 33 as written, but we're not opposing passage of 28 as written. We just don't know that we are in the position to recommend
Accept
passage
it,
at this
yeah.
point,
We can't recommend that we accept this parcel based on the information at hand. There may be more, again, we're kind of blurring the line between a motion and the blurb, but the idea is that we may receive more information at the town meeting that we might change our mind about,
Yeah. I think
or before town meeting.
that's good to say.
So our town meeting is the 12th. We need to have this published by the 5th. We may or may not have. We need to have a meeting by the before
Well,
then.
what, we didn't get back from Amber when we're gonna have the meeting with the selectmen, right?
It was either the 1st or the 8th. The 8th would be too late.
Yeah, well, but we write it and say we're not gonna support passage of it. And if more information comes, as always, we can change our mind at the town meeting. And make our recommendation known at that time. That it's in essence what we're doing with all the other stuff.
So how about this? I move that the Finance Committee oppose passage of Article 28 due to current conditions of the property.
Second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion to oppose passage of Article 28 as written due to the condition of the property that is seconded. Any discussion?
Didn't actually say as written, but it's okay.
My bad.
Yeah, I mean, but I guess we still might approve it with the condition the property's in if there is a escrow account set up.
Yes.
So I feel like it's incorrect to say we don't oppose it because of the condition of the property whenever we may full well approve it later on with the condition of the property the same exact how it is.
No, it's not. Physically, the property may be, but the conditions may not be. The conditions may be that we have an escrow account in place to take care of the issue that exists that makes us not want to do it today. So that's a different situation than what we have right now.
I feel like that's splitting hairs.
But that's what
All right.
that's what you got to do. We can't support it now. You don't want to.
I'm not saying we do. I recommend that we don't issue a support or oppose. I think we just recommend, the Finance Committee does not currently make a recommendation on this article due to lack of information or something like that. I don't think we do oppose or.
I believe
Well-
we have to have some position by the time that we publish our document on May the 5th. We have to have taken a position on
Then
it.
I would rather say oppose due to lack of information than condition of the property.
That would also be incorrect because we don't lack information about it. We're not accepting it based on the information we have right now.
I think that's fine. I think we say that then.
And that's what the motion was.
Let's condition of the property was the motion.
It was, okay. Dan, please, your piece, and then we'll close this up.
Yeah, I think either way, whether it's because we don't like the current information or we don't have enough information, either way, I think if it were to reach town meeting with nothing changing, we would oppose passage because we would not approve it. So I think that's how we should. I mean, we each get our own vote and we each decide. But I think that's how we should vote because if it entered town meeting exactly like this, we would not be supporting passage. So I think it makes sense to say that we don't support that we oppose passage right now, and in the explanation we can include the details of what it is that we don't like about the situation and the information they're waiting on, and then reconsider it if the details change.
That makes sense. Remind me, what is the exact verbiage?
That Finance Committee opposes passage of Article 28 due to current conditions of the property, I believe.
Hey, yeah, this condition of the property was the exact verbiage used.
It was condition of the property.
I mean, that doesn't need to be the exact words in the recommendation. I feel like we don't really need that bit in the motion, since we don't include the recommendation in in this motion of whether to support or oppose it, we don't always, I mean, we don't include the full recommendation. We then typically we vote later on, we get the recommendations prepared, the text of them, and then we vote to accept them or approve them later.
Right. So, as I kind of said before, we're kind of mixing the motions in with the verbiage, but the idea still is that we not support it, and Greg, with his continuation of that, has laid the groundwork for the verbiage. We say we pass or we don't pass. We don't put down blah, 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 we pass. So we say we don't pass, and this is why. So it, regardless of what you put in the motion, we recommend that it doesn't get passed. We give an explanation of why, and that's up to whoever writes the blurb and for us to say, okay.
I think I agree with Skip, which I feel odd about, but just kidding.
I think I agree with Skip, and I'm
now
just
that I
arguing
say
with
it out
him,
loud.
I agree with
No.
Skip as well.
I think you should just put you oppose passage of the article.
I agree.
Yeah,
You have another bite at the apple later,
yeah.
and if you decided you needed more explanation, you just put that in your rationale.
I'm fine with that.
Right, and that's what Greg said in the end. Hey, I one of the few people that made a motion at a town meeting and voted against my motion.
This is why I felt weird at agreeing with Skip. I don't understand that.
Okay, so can we amend?
Even Skip feels weird agreeing with
No,
Skip
he's-
sometimes.
No, he's, yes, it's immaterial whether you redo it, because he's already said we don't support passage as written,
As written.
It's
Right.
written, sure, yeah.
and that's,
Perfect. Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, Greg.
Aye.
Victoria says aye. Kyle.
Aye.
Nick.
Abstain.
Skip.
aye.
And Dan.
Aye.
That's passes. That motion passes with 5 ayes and 1 abstention. Okay, I think that covered 28, 33, 38,
Yep.
and everybody else.
That
Okay,
is everything.
excellent. Shall we go through the blurbs?
Amber, you ready? You're gonna be taking down the numbers, you're taking the blurbs that we've written for in the past.
Yes, we will kindly ask Amber to essentially, I mean, the blurbs that have already been written in the past, it's just updating numbers and or dates, right?
Yeah, so that's like
Yeah.
Article 1, 2, 3.
It's 1 through 19 that are the canned ones, and then a handful of others in the 20s. But number 20, the BBT stabilization account, that's the first one that we have not done before.
Okay, what person wants to write that?
Who would like to write the blurb for Article 20?
I can.
Thank you, Kyle.
I'll be the sucker.
21, the enterprise fund for waste management.
I can do that one.
Do you want to take 21 and 22? Since they're kind of together.
What?
Oh no!
No,
sorry.
no,
no,
they
they're
aren't.
not. No, they're not.
20
They're not.
yeah.
Sorry.
22 and 23
Yep.
are together.
Yep.
Yeah, 20.
23 we've done before.
Yeah, kind of. You want me to do 22?
Sure.
It's a little different because of the nature of the thing.
Yeah.
What I'll probably do is run it by Paul just to make sure I haven't misquoted.
Okay, 24.
24 and 20. Nope, never mind.
I'll do
Yep,
24.
we've done 25.
I'll do
It's just
24.
24.
Okay, and Amber will cover 24. 26, the rodenticide.
I can.
Thank you.
You may want to just hit up Amber because we do have the applicant's information that they submitted to the select board to have it reviewed, so it might be easy to lift your blurb straight out of there.
Get no complaints from me. Amber, I'll be emailing
Oh
you.
boy, you can't get full credit for writing that blurb then.
That's fine. I don't need full credit as long as it's done.
27. We've done.
Yeah, yeah, that's a general road.
Yep.
28.
I can do 28.
You Greg.
29 through 34 are all the planning ones.
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
Mark some.
Yeah. Get those done on time. Get
What?
them in.
Yeah,
You're going to do the 33 one?
I think.
The blurb on. They're going to change. They're going to further define vehicles.
I think what we were saying was
In essence.
31 and 34 should all be done by the same. Why does it all have to be done by the same person?
They don't have to.
Yeah.
Well, 33 is one of the ones we're looking to
oppose.
to amend. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can do that with the with that one if you want.
Did you just say you were doing all the planning board ones?
No, Amber's doing through 32. I'm gonna do 33.
I don't think I said that, but
Oh, I thought
I
that.
don't think she said
Sorry,
that.
I misunderstood what you said.
I'll do 31 and 32.
Which ones did you say?
I think she was just telling us the grouping.
Okay.
She was being helpful.
Kyle's doing
did we
31 and
did
32.
we do back through 29?
We have not spoken about 29 or 30.
I can do 29 through 32. That's fine. They're all fairly.
Sorry, I misunderstood that one.
All good.
No worries.
Yeah,
Check.
so Greg, not that you totally misunderstood, because she did say something that led me to believe that she had something on file that we had done in the past that she was kind of saying she would, but whatever.
I was picking it up.
Okay.
30 and 34?
So Skyle's doing up through 32?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You said you're doing 33?
Yep.
So 34.
I have not signed myself up for any additional ones, and I think 34 is particularly confusing and will require a conversation with Fiona. And I enjoy spending time with Fiona, so I will take 34.
Yeah, that's called, we support passage of this because it's modernizing our bylaw. That's the end of that one.
Well, probably, yeah. I am famous for my verbosity, Skip.
Yeah. But
Me.
but in the end, that's kind of what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah. 35. Is this? Oh, this is the Ferry Street.
I'll do that one.
Yeah, you were talking about doing all the CPC ones.
Yeah, well, 35, 36.
37 we should have.
Yeah, so I just wanted to look and see. Yeah, 37.
37 is an annual one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
30, so that Amber should have.
Thank you, Amber.
38, we just expect them to,
No
expect the town
problem.
to pass over.
Yeah, Passover.
Skip is doing 36 as well.
Yeah,
Thank you, Skip.
yeah. I kind of got my own mini boilerplate from the past of looking through their stuff and
Sweet. 39, the citizens petition.
well, we don't want that to pass anyway. So
I can do that one too.
Thank you, Greg.
oh, they're still here.
Oh, I heard.
Our vote earlier says otherwise.
That's right. They didn't put up too much of a fuss.
Yeah.
All right. So
Okay.
shall we send these to a person so that the person can distribute the drafts for anyone to bring to the meeting before this?
Assume Amber.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not that we're deliberating, but if anybody wants to make editorial changes to what we have done.
I
Can
think
review
those
them.
editorial changes would be considered deliberation under open meeting law. I think in the past, we've given our draft recommendations to Amber and then brought them to or I don't know, to somebody, Amber or, chair, whatever, and brought them back to a meeting and then approved them in advance of town meeting,
But
in
will
advance
we
of
wind up
posting our recommendations.
having a meeting before,
I think we have to.
Greg?
So
Will we be,
we
so,
could, one of the possibilities for the logistics meeting is the first, and we could do that the same.
same night. If
Same
not, then I can't advocating for having another. So what I'm saying,
still be a
so
Zoom
like
meeting.
sometimes somebody will say, I want a comma there, and it just further.
I think we said non-substantive changes.
Typographical
Yeah,
changes.
could
Yeah,
be
and
could be
that's
made.
kind of what I mean.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but we still need to vote to approve the recommendations by,
the 5th.
so they can be published on the 5th. So basically May 1st is the,
So
If we don't wanna meet on
ev-
Friday,
everybody
May
on the
1st is
finance
last
committee
day.
says we're going to meet May 1st. For the
Yeah,
event.
that's fine. Everyone that I've heard back
All right,
said that
so-
May 1st would work.
Therefore, that's when the meeting will be.
Yep, I think we're looking at
So
6:30
we
that night.
Yeah, really.
So that we don't have to post another meeting to do the blurbs.
That's fine.
Perfect.
Yeah, the first will give us time to post them.
Well, that sort of hits item number 4 then. The upcoming finance committee meeting will be on the 1st. Back to 3 is reviewing the state of the town message. Does anybody have any comments, corrections, ideas?
just one thing on the, do we want to meet before the logistics meeting or after the logistics meeting?
Logistics.
Did,
Do you want to do 6:30
we
or
can-
6 for ours and 6:30 for logistics, or we just want to flow into ours after logistics?
that'd be just as easy.
The logistics meeting only takes 10 to 15 minutes max.
I think we should flow in just in case
Okay.
ours goes over.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that's how we've done it before when we've had to
Yeah,
approve blurbs at the logistics meeting.
this is
Okay.
economizing the nights of meetings.
Wise.
Can I? This might be going back in the order of the articles. I'm just realizing something. We approved, or we voted to approve the one with the year that was incorrect in the sewer enterprise.
It's a Scrivener's error. We'll correct it.
Okay, just making sure we didn't need to like hold or great.
Nah,
was
we
a
got it.
Very good point. Though.
Yeah, don't know what to think of that right now, but we'll analyze that later.
Okay. I will go back through the state of the town message and ensure that all of the numbers, particularly those pertaining to state aid for last fiscal year and this fiscal year, are correct, including also Chapter 70 funds are correct. I'll work with Mary on that. And update my description of the fire department. But any other points on the state of?
Yeah, they got more guys than just 8, didn't they?
No, that number came directly from the chief. I canvassed, I believe, 14 different department heads for blurbs and got responses from 4 of them. So those 4 get to be in the letter.
Mine. Excellent.
I know.
Or forever hold your peace.
That's right.
In your highlighted section,
Yes.
I think Mary said 237.5. You have 250.
Oh, for the snow and ice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I will update that. 237.5.
I can put the final draft on the May 1st agenda. If you want to approve that night.
Perfect.
That looks looking great.
Okay. Yeah, I will highlight specifically for reasons of insecurity. So I will confirm all of those numbers. Okay, great. I think that that does it, and we'll meet again May 1st at 6 p.m. to review blurbs, state of the town message, and town meeting logistics. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.